Well, I'm actually pretty stoked. The sun decided to come out. You never know what to expect when you're washing in October in Southern Oregon. I'm wearing 2 sets of socks. I'm wearing my boots, wearing a good old Fast 4 Media hoodie, and wash day doesn't look like it's gonna be too bad. So that was a little bit of a look at my job earlier this week, but good afternoon, happy Thursday, and welcome back to the YouTube channel. I hope you guys are all having a fantastic day. Now, we have a lot of things that we need to cover in today's show, and the first one of those being a quick update on my race car after the crash we were involved in just a couple weeks ago at the Silver Dollar Speedway. Got it all cleaned up, was able to assess the damage. For anyone that didn't see, I got into the wall off of turn 4 there at Chico. It's just a very treacherous spot with how the curb develops, and I got into the curb too hard and it tossed my race car towards the direction of the fence. I made contact with it, and then just a couple laps later, everything kind of went downhill and the rear axle snapped, ending my race. But now that we have the race car back in the shop here in Southern Oregon and I got it all cleaned up, I kind of wanted to give you a little bit of a better look at all that damage on the right side of our race car, and then also a little bit of our theory on what exactly went wrong, came apart, and caused our race to end. Well, now that everything's all washed up, here's a look at the damage from night number 2 of the Fall Nationals. I showed it to you guys in that vlog, but here it is in just a little bit better lighting. That's the rear axle. The radius rod hooks up to the bird cage, which is not on the right rear. And then behind me, we have a little bit of a mess here in the solvent tank. We have the right rear arm and then the bird cage, and you can kind of see where that bearing seized inside. Maybe that is a little bit of a better look. But yeah, at the end of the day, no good. Now, here is what our team's theory is, because when we looked at the damage, and I didn't say this in the Silver Dollar Speedway night number 2 vlog, but the damage doesn't really match up with the hit to the wall. Let me kind of explain. Our theory is that the right rear bearing was starting to seize and go out before I hit the wall, so stuff was starting to compromise here on the right rear with everything that was going on. And then when I hit the wall, it sped up the process and had its weak point, and then therefore the rear axle snapped, 4 or 5 laps later. So our thoughts are the bearing was starting to go out. I probably could have finished the A-main event, but we might have caught it in the pit area after while we were doing maintenance. But then I hit the wall, and I didn't hit it very softly. I did get a pretty good little right rear lick just off of turn 4, hit the curb, tossed my nose, and clobbered it with the right side. And then 4 or 5 laps later, as everything was compromised, and then it completely snapped, and my race was done with about 15 laps to go. And all that, but at the end of the day, we got to get this rear end out, got to get everything apart, check and make sure what is good, what is bad, what needs to be replaced, and what we can do to move forward. So as a viewer, from what you can see in the video, what I just shared with you in that last clip, let me know what you think. Your guess on what happened is just as good as mine, but I'd be interested to hear what you have to say in the comment section down below. Now, since many of you guys have been following along with me throughout 2021, you have seen our journey. We have literally traveled all across the country racing with the World of Outlaws, the All-Stars, ASCS, and all the best guys along the West Coast. And it felt like throughout the summer we were racing like every single day, from the end of May to probably Labor Day weekend there in September. It was just go, go, go. We were all kind of pulled in different directions, just doing whatever we could to make it happen. And when life gets like that, it's super exciting, it's tiring, you're feeling kind of a lot of emotions throughout the whole process. But now these last 6 weeks that things have slowed down a little bit, we get to kind of get back in the rhythm of doing things we enjoy, Monday through Friday. And one of those activities we have been taking advantage of lately is grilling. And I'm talking about my dad specifically, because this is where he is very talented, and that all kind of ties in with the sponsor of today's video. So let my dad and I introduce you, if you haven't heard about them, to Race Day Rub.
All right, we're doing a couple pork steaks tonight. We're using our Race Day Rub. It's called Pit Stop. It's for pork, and it's turn 3. We're gonna give it a shot.
Now, as my dad mentioned, tonight we are using Race Day Rub on our pork, and if you guys have not heard about Race Day Rub, they are the sponsor of today's video. Now, they are an American-made barbecue seasoning that is 100% themed around racing. Now, they have 4 different seasonings in their collection. Tonight we are using the Turn 3. Now, the ingredients for this one are sea salt, sugar, chili, black pepper, garlic, onion, and spices. Now, the people over at Race Day Rub are awesome. They have a great mission for when they are grilling called Grilling for Good. Grilling for Good is a nonprofit organization that donates every single penny they make to local, regional, and national charities to help fellow American families throughout the United States. So they are just truly good, hardworking people with an awesome mission. Now, if you'd like to try Race Day Rub out for yourself, you have 2 options. The first one being you can head on over to my Facebook page. I just put up a post and I'm going to be giving away some Race Day Rub to 1 winner. Option number 2, you can head on over to their website, grillingforgood.com, browse through all their products, and at checkout use code Tanner for 18% off your purchase. Thank you so much, Race Day Rub. We love your products. My dad and I are going to be enjoying this pork tonight, and now it is time to get back into today's video. So with us making repairs to our race car, a lot of you guys are probably asking, what is next? What's the next sprint car race on the schedule? Well, there isn't many. Actually, as of right now, we have 3 nights of racing left, and it's all in one weekend known as the Trophy Cup. That is next Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And as you can see from this shot here, my dad, Carly, and I have been putting some hours in to get the 18T back to race-ready condition from the state that it was in when it left Chico, California, which was it was not very pretty. And I have that shop footage of us taking it all apart, so here it is. Well, it is just my personal opinion, but I believe it's a lot easier to take things apart than it is to put them back together, and that is exactly what we're doing here. Just trying to get radius rods and bird cages and rear arms all disconnected, as well as disconnect the rear end from the torque tube and get the driveline out so we can kind of slide every piece of this puzzle out and then get it all prepared to put it back together. Now, in the process of this, my dad figured it'd probably be a good idea to take the gears out of the rear end so we didn't have to do that once it was out of the car. So once we took care of all of that, it was time to just finish disconnecting everything, and we were gonna slide the rear end out the left side of the car. Now, I decided to throw a bunch of the parts that we took off in the solvent tank, which is what we like to do, which helps clean and get all that grease off, and then it makes it super nice. Whether you're putting those parts back on the shelf or if you're putting back on the car, they're clean and it's just easier to work with them. Then Dad started working on taking the rear end apart so we could replace that axle.
Working on an axle rebuild here. Clean the bearings. Got all my shims in place. I got to take the gear off of there, put it on here, torque it down, clean the housing up. Hopefully it all goes back in.
This is the new one, and as you can see, this is the old one. Now, with our current situation, we are just replacing the axle, so a ton of the parts off the old rear end that I smacked into the wall and snapped are good, and we're gonna be able to use them on this new rear axle. And with all that, it will make a complete rear end. So we're just trying to do our due diligence here in the shop, try not to miss anything, go over, double check ourselves. I always preach to you guys, races are won in the shop. They are won at the track, but a huge part of that is in the shop, doing everything 100% correctly and taking your time. So we fast forwarded 1 day and we have that axle in, and now the rear end is almost back complete. We're putting it all together, and it was time I could slide the torque ball, the torque tube, and the driveline all back and connect it with the U-joint and the housing and kind of start tightening that up. This process is kind of tough, and I guess it could be done multiple ways, but we decided to hook that all up before we put the rear end in. Now we're just sliding in through the left side of the car and then into the right, and then it will just sit on the frame rails. This is one of the most challenging parts of the job of putting a rear end in. It's now getting the snap ring in to connect it all together. We'll see how long it takes me. And be careful, hold the rear end. There it is. Did you hear it pop? Went in. It's in. So I actually got the snap ring in fairly quickly, which was a huge step in the right direction, and now it's all about just putting it back together. You can see I have the torque wrench now as we're connecting the torque tube to the rear end. Also have the rear end sitting on blocks, so it's just, it's easy to work on things because if you were to bump it, it would fall down right now. After we completed that, Dad started working on getting the brakes all hooked back up, and that was kind of our final job of the night before it really got too late to continue working on. So that is what our Tanner Holmes race team has been up to the past couple of days. We still have a ton of work to do, but we are getting ready to head down to the Red Bluff Outlaws in about an hour or two. We are going to be racing this weekend for their season opener. We have practice on Friday afternoon, and then we race on Saturday. So that's their first points race. We're going to finish this race car on Sunday. Carly, my dad, and myself. Like I said, we do have a lot to do, but we got one full day to kind of get it all done, kick it out, and then get ready to load so we can head south to the Central Valley in California to compete at the biggest West Coast sprint car race of the season. So that is going to be a blast, but it's also going to wrap up today's video. So thank you guys so much for watching. For all the updates on what's going on with my sprint car and outlaw cart, follow me on social media as well as the YouTube channel where we post weekly videos. And it's so cool that my family and I don't just get to experience it, but we get to bring you guys along with us for the experience, and that experience is not ending yet. We still have more races to end the year, and before we know it, 2022 will be here in just a couple of months, but it's gonna feel like tomorrow. So see you guys all in the next video in Northern California this weekend, Red Bluff Outlaws. We're ready to chase win number 42. See you guys all down there. Deuces.